Hey everybody, Kurt Martin, martinmoney.com. Today we want to talk about Roth IRAs, in particular, who is eligible to contribute to a Roth IRA. Now there's three different IRA contribution types. The first and most common would be tax deferred or traditional. That's basically where you get an income tax deduction for any contributions you make to the IRA. The earnings and the contribution you make grow tax-free for years, and then when you make a withdrawal in retirement, you pay income tax on all of your withdrawals. Roth IRA is kind of the opposite, right? So on a Roth IRA, you do not get a tax deduction for your contribution. But once you put the money in the account, all the earnings, the contribution, all the growth grows completely tax-free. So when you remove the money in retirement, it's not taxed at all anywhere. The final type is tax and after-tax IRA contribution, After-tax contributions are less common because a lot of the value of using an IRA comes in a deduction in the form of a contribution, or when you make the withdrawal, the growth is tax-free in a Roth. An after-tax contribution, we'll talk about how it's more commonly used, but in that case, the contribution is not tax deductible, and furthermore, the earnings, when they're pulled out in retirement, are taxed as income. So a little unusual, not as many people use those in a standard route, but there is a good reason we'll get to later and why you might want to use those. Now, with those three types of IRAs, it gives you some variability in your tax strategy. It really allows you an opportunity when you retire to have different tax buckets, if you will, to pull from. That's going to give you a lot of options in controlling your tax liability in retirement. So if your income's high because you've made a lot of withdrawals from a traditional IRA, you can then go to the Roth and start making withdrawals tax-free to control your overall tax obligation. So Roth by far gives you the most leverage in that regard. The more of your portfolio you have in Roth in retirement, the better. It doesn't mean you should necessarily contribute to a Roth instead of a traditional. All that depends on your income tax rate, both when you make contributions and when you make withdrawals. We've got another post about that we'll link below, and we'll do a video on that one too, which we'll link over my head here whenever we get it done. So let's jump in and talk about who is and isn't eligible to contribute to a Roth. Now, the most basic fundamental component of making a contribution and being eligible to make a contribution to a Roth IRA is that you have to have earned income. Now, earned income is income from like a job or from owning a business. It's working income. It's not things like rental income from a property you own, or dividend or capital gain income from stocks and investments. It's not gambling winnings, things like that. Those sorts of things are considered passive income. You wouldn't be eligible to contribute to a Roth IRA if that was your only income source, or if you didn't have any earned income from a job. Now, just because you have earned income, that doesn't necessarily mean you can contribute either. If your earned income level is too high, which really is your modified adjusted gross income, if it gets too high, then there's a range of brackets that where you become either phased out or completely disqualified from contributing to a Roth IRA entirely. We got some of these brackets up on the screen now in a table. You just figure out where you fall, and that'll tell you whether or not you can contribute. Now, there's also a third piece. Just because you have earned income doesn't mean you can max out a Roth. So in 2023, the max contribution to an IRA, Roth or traditional combined, is $6,500 per individual. And if you're 50 and older, you get a $1,000 catch-up break from the government, so you can contribute up to $7,500 in a year. Now, that assumes you actually have enough earned income to match that amount. So let's say you only had $4,000 of earned income in a year. Well, that's the maximum you can contribute to an IRA for that year. So that's another limitation based on income. Now, there's a few workarounds for this and some exceptions to the rules. The first of which we're going to talk about are spousal IRAs. Now, the IRS allows non-working spouses who are married and filing jointly with a working spouse to basically use their income to qualify them to contribute to a Roth IRA. So if you're a stay-at-home parent and your spouse works, you can use their income as sort of your qualifier to contribute to a Roth IRA. Now, you do have to file your taxes as married filing jointly to be eligible for that spousal IRA, and the overall income amount of your spouse, the working spouse, has to be enough to cover the total contributions for both spouses in the IRA. Another thing to keep in mind if you have a spousal IRA is to think about whether or not the working spouse has access to an employer-sponsored retirement plan. If they do, there's a chance the amount that they can contribute or you can contribute using their income could be reduced. Another interesting eligibility factor in Roth IRAs is age. There's no age requirement. The income piece is what we talked about earlier, earned income. So kids can actually contribute to a Roth IRA if they have earned income, and that's true if they're infants all the way up to the age 18. Now, we're not talking about babysitting money or a little extra cash for mowing lawns. This has to be income that is actually reported to the IRS, and once it's in there, though, they can contribute to a Roth IRA up to the amount of earned income they have or the maximum annual contribution amount. Now, a lot of parents like to do a sort of a matching program where if their kids, say, earn $1,000 one summer cutting grass or working a job somewhere, they'll contribute the matching $1,000 on their behalf. And it's a really great idea for a couple of reasons. One is young people have such a long horizon for the accounts to grow. So, you know, if you think about it like a 12-year-old, well, if they retire when they're 65, what is that, like 40? No, it's 53 years, right? 53 years of growth that's unencumbered by taxes. And when they make the withdrawal, it's completely tax-free. If you know anything about compounding interest, 53 years is an amazing amount of time for a balance to grow. So just think about that for one thing. The other is kids are in the lowest possible tax bracket when they're earning income because they don't make much money. If you think about it in your own life, as you've grown, you probably earned lower income when you were a child or a teenager than any other point in your life. That's the prime time to use a Roth account because the money's taxed going in. If you're at a low tax bracket when you make that contribution and then the earnings grow tax-free, well, later in life when they make the withdrawal, they're probably going to be in a higher tax bracket. The good news is their contributions went in a low bracket, so they maximize the value they got out of those contributions. And custodial Roths are very simple to set up. It's just like setting up any other Roth IRA. Most institutions will require an adult help a minor with that. Once they turn 18, they get full control over the account, and it grows just like a regular Roth IRA. Hey, if you haven't already, please do us a favor, click the like button and subscribe button. It really helps us get the word out, popularize our channel, and help us teach other people about personal finance. Okay, now that we've talked about eligibility requirements for Roth IRA, maybe you feel like you're on the outside looking in. Maybe your income's too high, or for some other reason you can't contribute to a Roth IRA. Well, there are a couple of workarounds we want to talk about. The first one is called the Backdoor Roth IRA. This is a very popular method. Basically what you do, we talked earlier in the beginning about after-tax contributions to IRA accounts. Anybody can make those regardless of their income. You make an after-tax contribution to an IRA, then you convert that to a Roth, and voila, you have a Roth IRA. It's kind of a loophole the government's left open for 15 years or more now. They've just never closed it. Now, any earned income or earnings you have on that after-tax contribution, you'll owe income tax on when you make the conversion, but most people just put it in a low-interest account or cash, so that doesn't really generate any earnings between the time they put it in the after-tax account and the time they move it in the Roth. That way they don't have any income tax or implications on that. Another thing you want to think about when you're doing a backdoor Roth IRA is the Pro Rata Rule. Now, when you make a conversion to a Roth IRA, the IRS takes into account all of the IRAs you have, traditional, Roth, whatever, and they're going to tax you on a pro rata basis on the percentage of traditional or untaxed IRA contributions you made versus the amount of after-tax contributions you've made. So keep that in mind. If you have a large traditional IRA, the backdoor may be unattractive to you because it could trigger a huge tax liability. Look into that if you're considering it. All right, our final alternative to Roth IRAs, if you're not eligible to contribute, is to use a Roth 401k. Now, back in the early 2000s, it became possible to contribute to a 401k on a Roth basis. For years it's been available, and the great thing about a 401k is that the contribution limits are so much higher. I think it's $22,500 in 2023. If you are making a contribution, you're under 50 years old, you're contributing to a 401k, that's the maximum amount you can contribute. And there's a catch-up provision, I think up to $30,000 if you're 50 or older, which is obviously much larger than $6,500 or $7,500 for an IRA. So that's much bigger. The other thing is 401ks generally don't have income limits. So if you're in a safe harbor plan, this means that your income does not disqualify you from contributing to a 401k. If you're not in a safe harbor plan, there's a chance if your income's high, you could get caught up in some testing that may disqualify you. But considering most people are in a safe harbor plan, chances are you can contribute to a Roth 401k. Something over 85% of 401k plans now have a Roth option, so that's something you could look into. And frankly, if you have that, the Roth IRA is a much smaller amount anyway. So the 401k is a pretty good option. Now, as usual, we have a written post about this on our website. We'll put a link to it below in the description. We also have a lot of other posts about Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, Roth versus traditional, making that decision. We'll link a few of those below. If you go read those, there's sure to be other links to other posts we've written. Thank you again for checking out our video. We always appreciate your interest in what we're doing. Hope you have a great day.